On behalf of the Florida A&M University National Alumni Association, Sarasota Manatee Chapter, I am Keenan Wooten, Vice President and Chairperson of our annual Rattler Week 2015. I will be your moderator for today's HBCU discussion. We have extended an invitation to the following members in the Manatee Sarasota community who are very successful and that have graduated from historical Black colleges and universities. I would like to take a moment to introduce my esteemed panel. First is Barbara Harvey, past Manatee County School District School Board member and a graduate of Bethune-Cookman College. Second is Clarence Rogers, a graduate of Howard University and the president of the local Howard Club. And last but not least, we have Joanne Surrency, a graduate of Florida Memorial University and a retired educator of the Miami-Dade County School System. Welcome.
Thank you.
I want to start out by thanking you all for joining us today and taking part in our HBCU roundtable discussion. I'm going to start out the questions, and we're going to do a little round robin here. Take your time and answer every question thoroughly as possible. The goal is we want to empower our community with information from esteemed individual and very successful individuals such as yourself. I'll start it out, Ms. Harvey. What HBCU did you attend and how did you get there? What did you major in? And tell us about your experience.
Thank you. First of all, you need to know that from early childhood, I was told that you will finish college. My mother noted that your grandmother was able to finish elementary school, and she said, I finished high school, and you will go to college. In 10th grade, Mary McLeod Bethune, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, visited our school, and she noted how important an education was. But not only that, she told us at that time how soon it would be that we would be integrating our schools. And it was important to note that we would be going to school with white children, because formerly all of my education had been with children who looked like me. So Bethune-Cookman College, less than 40 miles away from my hometown in Sanford, was the natural for me. In addition to that, I was 15 years old as I graduated from high school, and my mother really did not want me to go very far away. Bethune-Cookman was an ideal location for me. Now, I was born a 4th grade teacher. I'm sure that Dr. Starks told my mother that welcome to this world, 4th grade teacher you have here. So I went into education. I became an elementary education major with a math minor. And I graduated from Bethune-Cookman. And do I have to say the year, sir?
You can give us as much information you want.
Well, I graduated from Bethune-Cookman in 1961. And I'd like to note that in 1960, Dr. Martin Luther King spoke at the commencement services. So I did get a chance to meet him and to shake his hand at that time. I could go on for days, but I'm sure you don't have that kind of time.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
I should say that my experience at Howard University School of Law was preceded by having gone to historically white schools prior to going to Howard. I'm originally from Pittsburgh. Family moved to Cleveland. I had gone to Penn State when we lived in Pittsburgh, and when we moved to Cleveland, I transferred to Kent State, graduated from Kent. And at the time of of graduating from Kent, I was a business major with the intention of selling cigarettes, because back in 1961, that was a great job for a college graduate. They paid you $125 a week and gave you a car. And one day I was in class, in my business law class, and professor called on me, and when I finished, he said, "Mr. Rogers, I want you to meet me in my office." And all the way down to his office, I was trying to remember everything I had done bad, because I couldn't think of anything good I had done. And I was just trying to think of any reason they might have to keep me from graduating. So when I got to his office, he said to me, he said, "What are you going to do when you graduate?" Well, when he said that, I felt a lot better. I said, "Well, I intend to try to get a job selling cigarettes. This is the kind of job they're offering Negroes now, and they make $125 a week, and they give you a car." And he said, "You're better than that." And this was Professor Olson, an Irish gentleman. And he said, "Had you ever thought about law school?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Meet me next week." He himself was a lawyer. And the next week, we met in his office after class. He said, "If you had a choice of 3 law schools, which one would you want to go to?" He said, "Give me 3 schools right off the top of your head." I said, "Okay, Duquesne," which was in Pittsburgh. Cleveland had a Cleveland Marshall Law School. I said, "Howard." He said, "We are going to Howard." He sent away for the application. When he got it, he called me in his office, had me fill out the application in his office, told me to get a check for $26 to pay the application fee, and he sent it in. He wanted to make sure that it went in. Bottom line, I went to Howard, and it was only because of that gentleman that I even considered a law school in the beginning, and then Howard. I'd say it was the best experience, the best decision I ever made in my life was to go to Howard.
Thank you, thank you. And Joanne?
Well, I grew up in Rogers Projects in Bradenton, graduated from Lincoln Memorial High School in Palmetto, but I came from a family that believed in education. I had an uncle by the name of Charles Brooks who taught at Booker High School in Sarasota, and he loved the boys and girls. And he used to always say, "Where are you going to school?" And, you know, everybody wanted to go to FAMU. He said, "You have money for FAMU?" "No, but I'm going to apply." Well, didn't get any money from FAMU. So that summer, I graduated. It was in June. My uncle said to me, "What do you plan to do with your life?" And I said, "I'm going to college." He says, "Have you been accepted?" And I said, "No." He said, "I tell you what." He said, "Next week, tell your mom to get you ready because I'm taking you to St. Augustine." And in the car, my uncle took Paulette Wiggins of Sarasota, the 2 of us. We went to Florida Memorial together. And it was a wonderful experience. When I first got there, did I like it? No. The school was old and dilapidated. But there was so much love there. And I tell anybody, if you've never been on a black college campus, you just have to go there and spend a week. Because we didn't have a football team at Florida Memorial, but we had so much love and fun, good, wholesome fun that helped to build your character and your self-esteem. And it just was a wonderful experience. I majored in elementary education, graduated in 1971, did it in 3 years, and it's the best decision. And I love my uncle for encouraging me and all of the other successful people in Manatee County that he put in his car and took to St. Augustine, Florida.
Yeah, it seems like that's kind of the theme here. Someone influence you all as well as myself. Someone influenced me as well to make that trip up to Florida A&M University and graduate. I want to move along here. What was the biggest asset that you gained from an HBCU college experience? I know it's that one experience that may have stood out from everything. And I know within this panel we have a ton of experience, but what was that biggest asset that you gained? Ms. Harvey?
Thank you. I'd like to say that it was the camaraderie, the fact that everyone was there pushing me. I had no choice but to do well in my classes because there were professors there pulling me aside. Then, because of some strange reason, I was selected to go for my first plane ride to represent the school in Mackinac Island, Michigan. Nice. And that was the one thing. I got a chance to go there to the moral rearmament kind of activity for a 4-week affair. And somehow knowing that Bethune-Cookman College embraced the kinds of activities there and then respected enough of us to send us away to represent them, it made a difference. That person putting her hand or his hand on my back saying, "You're going someplace, baby,"
Nice.
Made a difference.
Nice. Mr. Rogers, any one asset?
Well, I would say the biggest asset of having gone to Howard, number one, you got a quality education. And I can only speak from the law school perspective. I didn't go to undergrad there. So if you look at the number of lawyers who graduate from Howard and the percentage of those lawyers who pass the bar on the first time, that percentage is extremely high compared to many other law schools. And I think that's a valid basis for making a comparison to law school. So you get a quality education. And as Ms. Harvey said, the other thing is you have lifelong friendships that you develop as a result of having gone there. And again, I'm fortunate to be able to speak from both perspectives. Having gone to Penn State, I can only think of 2 people who, during the 2 years that I was at Penn State, I maintained any kind of relationship with, and they happened to be African Americans who I had known in Pittsburgh. Kent State, I went to Kent State 2 years and plus 1 quarter. I have several friends from Kent State who I maintain relationship with, and again, they are African Americans. But at Howard, I can go into almost any major city in this country and find a Howard lawyer and probably someone who was there during the time I was there, and we would have the kind of friendship that would just open the door and make fun flow.
Yeah.
The biggest asset was a quality education, small classes, being able to actually, if you didn't understand something today in class, you could get to the professor today to say, I need some help with that. Also, you could go to the president's office and say, I need to speak to Dr. Puryear. And the secretary would say, you might have to wait, but you would get a chance that day. And also the lifelong friendships. When I was at Florida Memorial, I pledged my freshman year and didn't know it, but stayed online a whole year. So, you know, back in the day, that was something. But I pledged with 16 Ivies and lifelong friendships. Every time I go to the Bahamas, I had 7 girls from the Bahamas on my line. And I mean, they're right there, you know, and they're all successful there. In fact, one of my line sisters, she's retired now, was principal of Government High. And it's just like it's an experience that there's none other.
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Harvey?
I'd just like to note that the ambiance at our schools made the difference. You didn't hear of very many of our people dropping out.
Nope.
They wanted to be in school. That was the place to be. And not only that, the joy on campus, when you saw someone, you spoke to them, you had conversations. At Bethune-Cookman, it was under the tree, and it was a joy to be there. And as you said, Joanne, the friendships, you develop those at a level that if you needed something, if you didn't understand a problem in a class, you could see 2 or 3 people just sitting around working on it, but enjoying it.
Exactly.
It was not a job for them,
right,
but rather it was a joy to work with others who looked like you.
There was a nurturing,
yes,
that you received at a HBCU that you would not get at majority schools. And I think that goes with the philosophy of many HBCU schools, where they say, look, you may not come here as a fully polished diamond, but we will accept some diamonds in the rough and polish you. And other schools say, if you're not already polished, we don't want anything to do with you.
And I'm going to go to you, Joanne, real quick with that last comment, and then we're going to move on.
It's just that the nurturing, is outstanding, especially when you're sending your children. A lot of youth at 17 are not very matured. And there, we just had restraints that they cared for you. I can remember during the Vietnam War era, we had many young men who were drafted, and our president got them deferred, and he would get them off the bus. They were getting ready to be shipped out. And I mean, it's amazing what we get there.
Nice. Kind of moving on with the questions here, all great answers, and I know the community is really getting a treat today. Why do you think African Americans look down on HBCUs or think that they are inferior to these educational institutions? And I get that all the time. I work in the school district, and I had a capacity where I was a college and career advisor, and sometimes people would kind of shun and turn their back on these schools. Just kind of briefly touch on that. Where's the attitude coming from, or why?
They want to go to a D1 school. They looking at the glamour, the football, and they don't check to see how many of these children who go to these big schools actually graduate. Because I can tell you, as a freshman at Florida Memorial College, when I graduated as a senior, all of my buddies were in the line with me, and therefore have had successful careers. So they look at the bright lights.
What's on Saturday?
Or what's on Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't think about, you may be a good athlete, but what happens if you get hurt?
If you get hurt?
What do you have? And the one thing about HBCUs, we graduate.
Yes. I'm going to take one more with that question. Sorry.
Well, I'd just like to note, I know your question was why African Americans look down on HBCUs. I think they listen to what others say about HBCUs. Unfortunately, many of them have never experienced. You go into a classroom now, and you might see 1 or 2 African Americans in a class, and the others are all majorities. So they don't know the feeling that they would have in that environment. Tell you what, and I've got to say one last thing, I won't say another word. I've taken, when I was recruiting, have taken a white principal with me to recruit to Bethune-Cookman. And his response was, I never knew. I couldn't understand the feeling.
That's right.
Unfortunately, if you don't know that feeling, then you cannot you cannot express what we are expressing at this point.
If I could just say this
briefly.
I think it's based on an ignorance and a lack of historical knowledge. You have to understand, before 1965, an overwhelming majority of dentists and physicians in America either graduated from Howard or Meharry. A large majority of attorneys graduated from Howard. And after 65, and when the doors to these institutions began opening, and more black folks were accepted into these doors, suddenly those who finished at those schools decided that one had to have been ignorant or less qualified or competent to have gone to a Meharry or a Howard. Yeah. Look at me, I went to the University of Michigan. So it's ignorance, it's a lack of understanding.
But Keenan, piggybacking on that, I got my master's from FIU. And being that I grew up in the segregated system, and the first integrated experience I had was when I got my first teaching job, where I worked in a predominantly Jewish school, and right out of a black school, the principal said to me, these parents are going to question you. Well, it didn't take the parents long to find out that I was very well educated. And when I went to FIU, I was appalled because I was so much better than a lot of the people in my class. Because when we started out with the statistics class, we had about 50 students. And when the professor ended the semester, we only had 15. And I want you to know, 5 of those 15 were Afro-Americans.
Wow. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. We're running out of a little time here. We're at the 5-minute mark, but I'm going to put the 4th question in with your closing remarks. So what piece of advice would you give parents on how they can expose their children to these wonderful institutions? And then I'm going to let you close.
Well, I want to speak first because I think if you live in the Manatee County area, you need to get to know Dr. Barbara Harvey. She takes Afro-American students on college tours. She takes them to the bowl weeks and all of these things and give them that experience. So if you are a Manatee County resident and you have a kid in the Manatee County schools, you need to find out about Dr. Barbara Harvey and the programs that they have in this community exposing our students.
I would say they should not ignore the possibility of going to an HBCU. So many things happen. For example, on March 28th, the Howard Club is having Reverend Al Sharpton to our annual luncheon. Reverend Sharpton will be our guest speaker. The place is going to sell out because of who he is. And in addition to Reverend Sharpton, we are giving a special award to a man who has done a lot for black education, and that's Don King. So it's going to be quite a historic day.
Thank you.
I'd like to note that to expose your children, and this, it's going to be very short, but parents will have to wake up. It's time now for us to note that parents are going to have to say, it's not important to get my hair done this week. It's more important for me to drive my child to A&M or Bethune-Cookman College or university. It's not important to do my nails this week. It's more important for me to go to Florida Memorial and let my child have a tour there. We have to prioritize, just as our parents, your parents did, and you did. I know as a parent, your mother and my, yes. we didn't know about getting nails done, and we knew how to home perm or whatever. The thing is, we have to make sure that our children come before. That's important. And take your children. Go. We invite parents. Anytime we go, we went to Howard, as I said earlier. We invite parents. We want you to go with us. We want you to see this so that you can say, as my mother said, you will go to college.
Yes.
Now, the choice is maybe where you're going, but no, you're going to college. As your mother said, I know, you will go to college. You will finish college. But the bottom line is we cannot leave it all to the community. Yes, we can do a lot, but that parent putting a hand on the shoulder saying, I love you, baby, you're going to school.
And that's what it's all about.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. The fundamental purpose of the Florida A&M University National Alumni Association Sarasota Manatee Chapters Rattler Week is to provide students in Sarasota Manatee area with the opportunity to learn about Florida A&M University and other universities, historical black universities. And we want to provide the community with unique opportunities to interact with FAMU alumni. Florida A&M University falls under the umbrella of a historical black college and universities all across America. These universities are dynamic and awesome and has produced some of the nation's most influential people and will continue to serve our students. I want to encourage the community to attend all of our events February 8th through the 11th. We have planned. I would like to thank all of my guests who participated in this roundtable discussion, HBCU roundtable discussion that is so important for our community. I'm Keenan Wooten, and thanks for watching.